I'm Ava Reynolds. I served 10 years in the United States Air Force, specifically within the Special Access Programs, SAP, division. I used to believe that staying quiet meant keeping the peace. I used to believe that family loyalty was a currency you paid into, hoping that one day it would pay you back. But that belief shattered the moment I walked into my father's garage and saw the shelf stripped bare. The wooden plank, usually covered in dust and cobwebs, was clean. The dented metal ammunition box I had kept locked away, hidden behind old paint cans and rusted tools, was gone. There was nothing left but a rectangular clean spot in the dust and a glittery pink note taped to the wood. My heart sank before I even read it. Then I saw her handwriting. "Don't worry, I'll make good use of them. You weren't using them anyway. Love, Jenny." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something in me tore loose. Something final. For years, I'd let little things slide. The borrowed money that never came back. The way she called me cold or robot while asking for favors. I told myself she was family, that she needed grace, that she was the spirited one, and I was the responsible one. But standing there in that damp, oil-scented garage, staring at an empty space where my service history used to live, I felt something else. Not anger, not even sadness. It was a stillness, like the silence inside a cockpit just before a storm hits. The garage hadn't changed much since I left Auburn. The walls were still lined with rusted shelves. The floor still creaked in the same places. But the air felt different now. Heavier. Like time had settled into the corners and refused to leave. It smelled like motor oil, sawdust, and years of things unspoken. I ran my fingers across the empty shelf. Those medals weren't just mine. They were stories, sacrifices. But inside that box, nestled beneath the ribbons and the bronze star, was something else. Something heavy. Something that looked like a coin but felt like a weapon. My stomach turned over. If Jenny had just taken the medals, it would have been theft. But if she had taken the ghost key, it was treason. I stood there for a while, listening to the rain tapping against the tin roof. I folded the note, slid it into my pocket, and turned toward the house. My dad was in the living room, half asleep in front of the TV. The blue light flickered across his face. I asked him if he'd seen the box. He didn't even look up. "Jenny moved some stuff," he mumbled, waving a hand dismissively. "She needed to clear space for her photography props, said she could get a few bucks for that old junk. You never cared much about that stuff anyway." That word stuck in my throat. Stuff. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that the stuff in that box included a commendation for pulling a pilot out of a burning fuselage in Kandahar. I wanted to tell him about the nights I spent awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made the right calls. But I didn't. I just nodded and walked back outside, letting the screen door slam behind me. I didn't know what I'd do yet. I only knew that I was done pretending this didn't matter. Because what she took wasn't just metal. It was a part of me. And inside that box was a secret that was never meant to see the light of day. To most people, the box contained just metals. Bits of metal pressed into shapes, hanging from cheap ribbons. But hidden in the false bottom of that ammo can was a heavy slate gray coin. It looked like a standard challenge coin, the kind units trade for morale. It had a unit insignia on one side and a Latin phrase on the other. But it wasn't a coin. It was a cryptographic hardware token. Technically, it was obsolete, a relic from a decommissioned satellite uplink system we used in Operation Silent Echo. It didn't work without the mainframe, but legally, it was still classified as Category Pushing Defense Article, under the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, ITR. Possessing it was a gray area for a retired officer. Selling it? That was a federal felony with a 20-year prison sentence. It was considered trafficking in advanced military encryption. I had kept it because it was the only thing I had left of Major Halloway, my mentor, who didn't make it back. He had pressed it into my hand before his final flight. It was a paperweight to me, a memory, but to the U.S. government it was a piece of encryption tech that could never, ever be sold to a civilian. Jenny didn't know that. Jenny saw a heavy, cool-looking coin. Jenny saw dollars. I drove back to my apartment in silence. The rain blurred the windshield. I kept hearing her voice in my head. It's just stuff. Over and over, like a hammer on wet wood. When I finally sat down at my kitchen table, I opened my laptop. My hands were trembling slightly. Not from fear, but from the cold realization of what was about to happen. I logged into the auction sites. eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. It took me 10 minutes. A new listing popped up under Recommended for You. The title hit like a punch. Authentic Air Force metal set plus rare special ops coin. Heavy metal, real deal. I clicked. The photo loaded. There they were. My medal lay out on her kitchen table, and right in the center, gleaming under the flash of her iPhone camera, was the ghost key. She had polished it. My throat went dry. I stared at the seller's name, Jenny Sunrise. The asking price for the whole lot was $450, but it was the description that made my blood run cold. Found this in my dad's garage. Super heavy coin, looks like it has a microchip edge. Very cool piece. Message for international shipping. International shipping. She had just offered to export restricted military encryption technology to the highest bidder on the open internet. I didn't just feel betrayed anymore. I felt the walls closing in. The algorithms at the NSA and DHS sweep these sites automatically. They have bots that look for keywords like special ops, coin, and microchip. She hadn't just stolen from me. She had tripped a silent alarm in a server room in Maryland. I grabbed my phone and dialed her number. Loud music came through first, then her voice, bright and casual. "Ava, you okay?" "Jenny," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Did you list my box online?" There was a pause. Then she laughed. "Oh my God, is that what this is about? Dad said you looked grumpy. Look, I needed the deposit for the wedding photographer. You weren't even using them. They were covered in dust." "Jenny, listen to me," I said. "You need to take the listing down. Now. Immediately." "Relax," she scoffed. "I already have a bidder. Some guy from overseas offered me double for the coin. He said he collects rare tech." My heart stopped. "Did you sell it?" I whispered. "Jenny, did you ship it?" "I'm printing the label now," she said, sounding proud. "Going to the post office in an hour. Why are you being so dramatic? I'll buy you a pizza with the profit." "That coin is not a coin," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It is a restricted cryptographic device. If you ship that internationally, you are committing a federal crime. You are violating the Arms Export Control Act." Silence on the other end. Then a scoff. "You always do this," she spat. "You always try to make yourself sound so important. It's a coin, Ava. It's metal. Get over yourself. I'm selling it." Click. She hung up. I sat there in the silence of my apartment. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. I had a choice. I could drive over there, break down her door and stop her physically. I could call the cops myself. But then I looked at the listing again. Sold. It was gone. She had accepted the offer. The transaction was complete. The digital footprint was permanent. I leaned back in my chair. For 10 years, I had protected secrets. I had followed every rule. I had buried my trauma to keep my family comfortable. And in return, my sister had just sold my honor and my safety for wedding photos. I printed the listing. I printed the timestamp. I printed the text logs of our call, where I warned her. Then I sat back and waited. I didn't have to wait long. The system works faster than people realize. When you try to ship a package internationally with a customs declaration that says metal coil, but the X-ray shows density consistent with restricted hardware, flags go up. When that package is linked to a seller who just used keywords flagged by the Department of Homeland Security, the response is not a letter. It is a raid. 2 days later, I was at work. My phone started vibrating on the desk. 3 calls from Dad, 5 from Jenny, then a text from Dad. Emergency. Come home now. I excused myself from the meeting and walked into the hallway. I dialed my father. He answered on the first ring. He was screaming. "They're here, Ava. The feds. They're everywhere." "Who is there, Dad?" I asked calmly. "FBI, Homeland Security, I don't know. They kicked in the door. They have Jenny in cuffs. They're tearing apart the garage." I could hear the chaos in the background, voices shouting orders. "Clear left. Secure the device." "What did you do?" My father screamed at me. "You called them, didn't you? You did this because you were mad about your stupid medals." "I didn't call anyone, Dad," I said. "The internet watches everything. I told her not to ship it." "Fix this," he yelled. "Talk to them. Tell them it's a mistake. She's your sister. They're talking about espionage charges, Ava. Espionage." I closed my eyes. "I can't fix this, Dad," I said. "She sold an ITAR-controlled device to a foreign national. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a felony." "I don't care about your acronyms," he sobbed. "She's in the back of a squad car. Get down here." "I'm not coming," I said. "If you don't help her," he hissed, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper, "you are dead to me. Do you hear me? Family protects family." "Family doesn't sell each other out for $400, I said. I hung up. That night, the news broke. It wasn't a local story. It was national. Alabama woman arrested in federal sting involving military encryption technology. The video footage showed Jenny being led out of the house in a windbreaker, her hands cuffed behind her back. She looked terrified. The arrogance was gone. The spirited girl who took what she wanted was replaced by a suspect facing 10 years in federal prison. The comments online were brutal. But then, the narrative shifted. Jenny's lawyer, a family friend, made a statement. He claimed Jenny was innocent, ignorant. He claimed the items belonged to her sister, a former Air Force officer. He implied that I had left dangerous items lying around, endangering my family. Suddenly, my phone blew up. Strangers found my profile. "Why did you leave spy tech in a garage?" "You set your sister up." "Traitor." I watched the world turn on me. My family had thrown me under the bus to save Jenny. They were painting me as the negligent soldier who brought danger into the home. I sat in my apartment, watching the lies spin out of control. But I had something they didn't have. I had documentation. I had the chain of custody forms for the box, proving it was locked. I had the text messages where Jenny admitted to breaking the lock. I had to pry it open with a screwdriver, LOL. And I had the warning call logs. I didn't go to the press. I went to the Office of Special Investigations, OSI. I sat down with a quiet, gray-haired agent named Miller. I handed him the file. "My sister broke a federal lock to access that box," I told him. "She knowingly sold the item after being warned of its nature. Here is the proof." Agent Miller looked through the texts. He looked at the lockbox photos. "She's claiming you gave it to her," Miller said. "She's lying," I said, "and the texts prove it." Miller nodded. "This clears you, Captain Reynolds. But if we use this, your sister is going away for a long time. There's no plea deal for trafficking if she did it knowingly." He looked at me. He was giving me a chance to back out, to take the fall, maybe lose my clearance, but save my sister from prison. I thought about the empty shelf. I thought about the "it's just stuff" comment. I thought about my father screaming at me. "She made her choice," I said. "File the evidence." The aftermath was a slow, cold burn. Jenny pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of unlawful export of defense articles to avoid the espionage rap. She was sentenced to 30 months in a minimum security federal facility. My father had a heart attack the day of the sentencing. I went to the hospital, not to apologize, but to say goodbye. The room smelled of antiseptic and old flowers. My father lay in the bed, hooked up to monitors. He looked small, frail. When he saw me, his monitor beeped faster. "Get out," he rasped. "I came to check on you," I said. "You put her in there," he spat. "You could have said you gave it to her. You could have taken the blame. You're the soldier. You could have handled the heat." I stared at him. "You wanted me to take a felony charge?" I asked. "You wanted me to go to Leavenworth and lose my pension, my career, my freedom. For Jenny?" "She's your sister," he said, tears streaming down his face. "She's not built for this. You are. You're strong. You should have carried it." There it was. The truth of my entire life was the strong one, the one who could take the pain. So I was expected to catch the grenades so Jenny wouldn't have to get her hands dirty. My medals, my service, my sacrifice, it meant nothing to him. I was just a shield to be used until I broke. I felt a sudden, profound lightness. The tether that had bound me to this toxic dynamic for 30 years just snapped. "You're right, Dad," I said softly. "I am strong. Too strong to let you do this to me anymore." I reached into my bag. I pulled out a small velvet pouch. "The FBI returned the rest of the contents of the box," I said. "They kept the coin as evidence, but I got the medals back." I poured them onto the bedside table. The bronze star clattered loudly against the plastic tray. "You said this was just stuff," I said. "You let her take it." I looked him in the eye. "Keep it. It's all you have left of me." I turned and walked to the door. "If you walk out that door," he threatened, his voice weak but venomous, "don't you ever come back." I stopped. I looked back at the old man who had chosen his favorite child, even when she was a criminal. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm gone." I moved 2 weeks later. I took a job as a civilian consultant for a defense contractor in Virginia. It was a quiet job. Serious work. People there understood what ITAR meant. They understood what a bronze star meant. I blocked my father's number. I blocked Jenny's letters from prison. 6 months later, I received a package at my new office. There was no return address, but the postmark was from Washington, D.C. I opened it. Inside was a heavy slate gray coin. It wasn't the original one. That was destroyed by the DOJ. This was a new one, a replacement. But this one was different. It was mounted in a small glass block. And there was a note, handwritten on official Air Force stationery. "Captain Reynolds, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. It is also doing the right thing when everyone you love is screaming at you to do the wrong thing. The system noticed. We don't forget our own. Keep the peace. General H." I stared at the coin. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just placed it on my desk, right next to my nameplate. My family was gone. The garage was a memory. But I looked at that coin and realized something. I hadn't lost my history. I had protected it. And for the first time in my life, the silence in my home didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like honor.